San Jose Earthquakes. What are we doing? My name is Oscar Moneyball, and I'm a San Jose native using my tactical analysis background as well as my data analytics background to discuss my thoughts and overall layout of the landscape of this MLS 2024 season so far. We are approaching match day 10 in the MLS season. We've played 8 games in total out of 9 possible. We are dead last in the Western Conference and the Supporters Shield. So what's going on, right? We would expect to be able to pick up from where we left off, playing the playoffs. We didn't do that well, but you would expect for this team to continue developing as players were acquired and some were let go. We have the same staff. We kept a lot of our best players. You would expect us to continue moving forward and not descend into the position that we're in at the moment. Is it still early enough for us to change where we're heading? I believe so, but there has to be a lot of changes, and I'll be talking about those changes as I get into the tactical analysis side of this. But let's make sure we just transition over so I can share with you guys some stuff that I have here. So we've played 8 games, 4 home, 4 away. So I'll start off with the home games, the data I collect in the home games, and then move forward to the away games. So 4 games total at home. We've been able to score 4 games total out of all 4 games, averaging 1 goal a game. We've conceded 10 goals in those 4 games, conceding 2.5 goals per game. So right off the bat, our goals scored and goals conceded has a deficit there where we're allowing more than what we can do. Our expected goals is at 5.83 in total of those 4 games, averaging 1.46 per game, and our expected goals conceded is at 5.65, averaging 1.41 per game. So our in XG, the team is XG and XG conceded. They're doing pretty good, although the reality is the goals and goals conceded were underperforming. So we should have scored between 5 to 6 goals in those 4 home games, but we've only been able to score 4. We should have only conceded between 5 to 6 games in those 4 home games, but we've conceded 10. So we are definitely underperforming in goals and in the goals conceded. So what could we attribute that? Do we have bad goalies? Do we have bad defending? Are we letting these teams just come into our home and walk away with points? That's exactly what's happening here. So in points, we've played 4 home games, 12 points total. We've only been able to collect 3 points in total with 1 victory against Seattle. That puts us at 0.75 points per game. And expected points, we've tallied up 4.7 in the 4 home games, averaging 1.18 expected points per game. Really, really bad here, underperforming in every metric. Absolutely. Let's go to the away side. Away games, 4 games total, 12 points possible, 0 points collected. Expected points, we should have between 4 to 5 points expected points, averaging 1.23 expected points per game, but we've been able to collect 0. In goals conceded, in those 4 games, we've allowed 10 goals, same as at home, averaging 2.5 goals conceded per game. How many goals have we scored, though? We've been able to score 6 goals away in those 4 away games, averaging 1.5 goals per game. We still have that deficit where we are scoring less than what we receive. And expected goals, however, we do see a little bit of a higher deficit there. We have XG conceded in total of those 4 games. We have 4.44 XG conceded, averaging 1.11 per game. XG, we've been able to accumulate 5.18 and that would put us at 1.3 XG per game. So at goals, we have a little bit of we're underperforming by a goal or less than a goal, and XG conceded, we're underperforming by between 5 to 6 goals in total. Underperforming in every metric, home or away. Seems to be that we have a better form away than we do at home. But let's move on to our attacking strength and defending strength. So I know you see a lot of numbers and there's a lot of colors, but let's see if we can zoom in to what I want to look at. We see here San Jose, it's the highlighted tab, the row. Attacking strength, out of all the teams, it's highlighted in a shade of red, which means it's really bad. You ideally want to have your attacking strength to be over 1 says that you're good, at 1 says that you're average. Anything less than 1 for attacking strength means you're really bad. The attacking strength, the medium for the league is at 1.6 and we're at 0.6. The defensive strength is backwards of the attacking strength. So anything over 1 means you're really bad. If you're at 1, you're average. Anything less than 1, you're doing a really good job defensively. And we are at 2.34 defensive strength at home. That's just for actual goals scored and actual goals conceded based on expected goals and expected goals against. We're still in the shade of red, slightly less. As you see here, our attacking strength is close to 1 at 0.91, still not that great. And our defensive strength is 1.26 over 1, which is not good, but not as bad. At away, we see here that our attacking strength, or we'll start with the defensive strength because we are away. It's over 1. It's really bad. 1.46. It's a dark shade of red. And our attacking strength is 1.46. And this is based off actual goals and actual goals conceded. So we're doing pretty decent away in our attacking strength. However, if you compare it, well, it's not that far off from the average. The average from the entire MLS is 1.03 attacking strength, and we're at 1.46. So we're really good away at attacking strength. And based off expected goals and expected goals against, our defensive strength is under 1, really good, and our attacking strength is slightly over 1, really good. Not as high as some other teams, but we're not that bad. So at home, we're just doing really, really bad. Okay, now let's talk about the lineup, right? The players, the way that we're playing right now. So currently, we started off the season against FC Dallas, parking the bus and doing nothing in the attack. We played a 4-3-3, and this back four seems to be consistent in the lineups. And as we progress, you'll see that there's a lot of changes up here going forward. I don't really think we'll talk about that. So then we go with our first away game and then first home game. It's the same lineup. The only difference is Pellegrino's in. Got subbed out. We lost 1-3, another loss. Then I am highlighting our first victory versus Seattle Sounders at home. And there's a big difference in the lineup. We start off, obviously, Jarbro is now the goalkeeper since Daniel got injured, but the back four is different. We have two different players. We have Vitor and Wilson now in the starting lineup. We have a change of formation from a 4-2-3-1. I think there's an error here. I saw Sakiri's up here in where Jewel's spot, and then Jewel was playing the double pivot with Morales. Morales is also now in the lineup. And then we have the top three completely different. than what we saw before. In theory, these formations are, well, let me share the last one. And then our most recent away game against Austin, where we scored the most amount of goals, but also allowed the most amount of goals. We were still playing, well, we went back to the 4-3-3. The difference here is that there was no Jewel. The double pivot was with Morales and Grueso. Kikanovic stayed on. Ibobasi came back in. Espinosa continues to do what he does best, which is dominate in assists, dominate that right flank. So one thing that I want to highlight now, this starts to get into the tactical side of it. A 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1. It's pretty much the same formation. Even the 4-4-2 is just based off what your players' attributes are. So we see here, one more game is we'll highlight the starting lineup in the last home game, the most recent game against Colorado, where we lost 0-3. We continued to play a 4-3-3. Difference in the lineup was that we have Beeson back in and Capo back on the flank. Double pivot continues to be Morales, Jewel, and Sakiris. Two of the regulars there are Sakiris and Morales are starting to win in that midfield battle. There's no Gresso. There's the consistency of Gresso is no longer there. And then Ibobasi continues to be the striker, Espinosa and Pellegrino. So one thing I want to highlight, and this may be my opinion, but we're not using these players and we're not highlighting their strengths and allowing their strengths to develop the game. The best game I saw was against Seattle. And look at this lineup. This lineup looks completely different than the ones we're highlighting. We saw, if you remember watching this game or if you watched it, we saw a very, very, very dynamic Earthquakes in possession, in transitions, and every aspect of the game. Defensively, they were okay. They weren't as strong defensively, but in those transitions, those breakaways, when Seattle would get into our half, the quick transitions made a huge difference. There was a lot of breakaways. There was really entertaining possession with 1-2 passes. And I attribute that to the number one reason being that we removed Grueso from the lineup, added Morales, and now Jewel and Morales had a defined role. So again, Jewel was actually playing here, and Sakaris was playing in this cam position, number 10 role. The second biggest thing was Jude. Jude is a different striker compared to Ibobasi. He adds mobility. He's a different player, and I'll highlight that in just a second. This guy has energy. He's aggressive. He has a personality in the game, and Espinosa continued to deliver what he did his best. He was able to score in this match. The third attribute that made a big difference for me was adding Kikanovic on to the starting lineup. You added so much youth, so much. It was a mixture of like these experienced Earthquakes players with the players that are next up and want that opportunity, and they did exactly what they needed to do. Unfortunately, in this match, Luchi Gonzalez was not able to manage the game correctly, and he put in two of the most disappointing players, in my opinion, in this squad, which is Jack Skahan, who is just, in my opinion, really, really bad. At least in the role that he's occupying in this Earthquakes team. And Ibobasi, that sub for Jude, fine, not a big deal. But you took out the two players that were the most effective in your transitions. And with Seattle going all out attack, adding Skahan in and Ibobasi just meant you're just going to play in your own half, and that's exactly what happened. Fortunately for the Earthquakes, they were able to score that winning goal against Seattle with Ibobasi and Skahan teaming up on that quick breakaway. Very fortunate for us. All right, so now let's get into the tactics. So I'm going to eliminate for this demonstration the away team and just strictly focus on the Earthquakes and what I see here. So they continue to come out with the 4-3-3 with Ibobasi being a regular as a striker. So one thing that the reason why I'm not really enjoying Ibobasi as a striker is because of the fact that he drops too much. When the team is defending, he doesn't run forward. He doesn't provide any depth. And what that does is that when the striker does this, I'm going to add the away team, the back line, sorry, this is taking a while. The back line does this, so yeah, he's always going to be outnumbered because they're always playing against two. But when you do this, so Ibobasi plays here, ball's back here, anywhere in the back. He does this to check in. He checks into these half spaces or in the center zone based off the Pep Guardiola field positioning, right? So he checks into the center zone or half spaces. And when he checks in, he provides no depth. He's outnumbered every single time. It just means that the opposing team can continue to press forward. And with nobody to give us the breakaway, Espinosa and whoever is playing on the left side, they're really far from the goal. So ideally the ball goes to these guys when there is a fast breakaway. It mostly goes to Espinosa. But by the time Espinosa has the ball, Espinosa gets outnumbered. The left striker is on the opposite flank or in this half space here, away from any high probability or high XG zone. So I'm bringing in now XG zones, and these red areas are high probability of scoring a goal, and the further you are away, the less likely it is for you to score. So with no one attacking these high XG spots, it does not matter what Cristian Espinosa does if no one is able to finish. Here brings me back to Ibobasi. When Ibobasi does this check-in and he supports and he helps build up play, building up play, I'm gonna bring this up. So there's 4 phases when you're building up play. There's the build, progress, penetrate, and finish. He's nowhere near any finish zones. By the time Espinosa's running, Ibobasi is around here in this zone, this center zone, super far away from that. We have seen some goals where Kikanovic comes in this back post off the cross, but Ibobasi is nowhere near. We have seen some goals where Ibobasi does score in these high XG zones, but it's mostly because it's either a rebound or he was actually in a good position. But 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 out of 10 times, Ibobasi is so far back, and the rest of these players don't transition fast enough. They don't build up. They don't get into these zones. Okay? That's a big reason why we lack high XG and why we are not scoring a lot of goals. That we're adding no numbers to the attack. It's always the same 2 players finishing the attack. One thing we need to notice is that the more numbers you add here, the more into the zone. So ideally, let's go to what happened with Jude, with Preston Jude. Why I like Preston Jude. So we still have these 2 players on the flanks. We have Kikanovic and um, Espinosa. And then let's add in the defenders. So we have two. Against Seattle. Seattle played 4-4-2. 4-4-2. Okay. Now this looks like it's a lot of little figures in here. Let's move away the XG zones for now. And we'll leave the build zones, the build, progress, penetrate, and finish. What I liked about Jude was that he wasn't playing the mans. He wasn't with the center backs. He was always in between the center backs. That's good because that way there has to be communication between the two center backs of who has the mark, right? There needs to be that understanding. When Jude positions himself here, any little mistake that they make gives us the breakaway. Another thing that was really good is that when you have Kikanovic and Espinosa so wide, it forces the right back and the left back to be wide, giving a lot of room between the center backs and the full backs. A lot of room for space, space and just channels, right? You start building up these channels, so the half zones become a target. And Jude did that. He provided depth. Instead of checking in, he would make runs behind the defenders' backs into these zones every single time. And you can watch that game. Watch that game and notice how Jude was getting long balls, or they were able to penetrate and find him in these zones, which then allowed the support, which then forced the defense back into their own box, which then forced the midfielders back. And then the super, super slow transitions of Jewel and Moreno, super slow at transitions, would allow us to build up the game. So then now Sikaris would check in, Jewel will take the other half space. Moreno or Morales? Morales would take the center zone, and then now you have these guys attacking. Now, one thing that was really good about this one was that since Seattle was playing with with two strikers, you always want to have one more player, and Vitor almost played like a center back, giving space for Marie, right, to go and attack and create this overload on the flanks. So this was a lot of the game right here. It was a lot of Jude checking in, getting the ball. Then we'd create the overloads this way. And then Jude would find himself here. We even saw Jude getting the ball in these half zones, coming in, taking shots. Ibobasi, no shots from outside the box. No shots in high XG. None of that. So there's a big difference in Ibobasi and Jude. There's a difference of progressing the play, keeping possession, or just constantly transitioning offense, defense, offense, defense, offense, defense, because there's no one to finish the attack. Cristian Espinosa is always outnumbered. Pellegrino is always outnumbered in the flanks. They have no one to give the ball to, and then we have these super slow transitions by these two players right here. Super slow in transition. Jewel and Morales, super slow, which then doesn't force the back line to push up high enough. Rodriguez needs to be a leader and push this team forward. Push Jewel forward. Push Morales forward. don't jog up the field. How can we only attack with one or three, at max four players? Most of the attack when we have a Bulbasaur is just attack of 2 to 3 players and everyone stays in the back. Because why would you make that run if you're going to lose the ball? Why would I make this run with... let me get rid of these guys. So this is the game when we have Espinosa. I mean, Ibobasi up top. Usually the breakaway is from Espinosa. Usually Espinosa carries the ball forward. Why would these back defenders and the midfielders waste so much energy and sprint, maybe 60, 40 yards, when Cristian Espinosa is outnumbered? There's four defenders that they have to go through. This one. Maybe even the center mids. So you're outnumbered 1-6, maybe 1-4, 1-3. Sometimes we see Espinosa cool down the ball on the flank, try to find possession, but when we do that, it's always like this. It's always a backwards pass. I mean, it's fine. Backward passes are fine, but Espinosa always has either he runs the ball forward, gives the team depth. He shouldn't be the one providing depth. He's supposed to provide width. Maybe the depth as well, but we're putting our best players in furthest away. Furthest from the high scoring opportunities, from high XG zones. There's no way that we're going to perform and continue to do really well if we are putting our best players away from these zones. Which brings me to my next situation. Pellegrino, right? We were sold this player. Let's see. That is supposed to be really, really good. Had a really high goals and assists record. Let's see if we can find. I know here they put him as a left winger or a right winger, but let's see where his previous team was. Where do we see careers here? To I'm sure he played in this one. Just going back a year to find Pellegrino. He's playing that left, but he's in his highlights. He doesn't play this zone. This zone is occupied by somebody else. So even though on paper he's here, he's finding these zones right here. I'm sure of it. I'm sure if I find his heat map and his passing, his passing chart, his passes are here. His highlights are all here or in here, not out here. So are we wasting a player? I think so. Are we wasting a player out here? Maybe not, because he continues to deliver an assist. But are we wasting the striker? Are we wasting our transitions? Maybe. I mean, I can get more tactical with this and technical with different styles of play, but I just wanted to point this out that I don't think, although they try, I don't see a lot of positional play. I don't see us progressing the ball. I don't see our field tilt What if you know what that means is how much we play in the opposition's half is very low for our game. So that tells you that we're always playing in our own half. The other team is always in our own half, or that there's whatever sparks we do play in their half is they're quick. We lose the ball very quick. Um, yeah, I mean that's just my season review so far. Basically, just an underperformance from every metric. Absolutely. Do we need better players? I mean, you would always want better players. We would always want to have the best players. However, I think the players that we have are professional. They're great players. So I just expect more of them. I expect them to understand the way that modern soccer is being played at the moment, with quick transitions, quick ball recovery, pressing. There's no pressing triggers, no pressing traps. Basically, as soon as the Earthquakes lose the ball, they just run backwards and get into their shape instead of there's traps where you can kind of trap the opponent and force them one way to get, to get regain possession, and I'm not seeing that at all from this squad. Now, could it be the coach? Luchi has proved to be pretty decent last season, and he has a solid history. However, he's the one game where he made a lot of changes was the best game I've seen this team play, and then he just completely went back to playing Ibobisi. And I mean, I get there's hierarchies or seniority and things like that, but I mean, Jude is giving you exactly what the team needs, which is depth, which is runs into the spaces, and not congesting your center zone, your half spaces, and keeping players away from high XG. Another player that stand out at the moment is Sakari. Sakari is that player who adds an extra number to the attack. He's quick, he's sharp in passing, he's not afraid to dribble. He's not 100% there yet to be a real threat, but he's a different player, a different midfielder, and adds a lot of value to the attack. Pellegrino, Espinosa, I'd like to see them in positions where we can highlight their strengths. Are we maybe using Pellegrino in the wrong position? Can we maybe try him out somewhere else? Maybe in your 4-3-3, add him into the center mid, or does he not drop down? Does he not add any defensive value to the team? What's the reason, right? We got to ask ourselves those questions. Then why are we keeping him so far away from the zones where he is so good at? Or if he does have the ball, why is there no striker for him to feed the ball to? Why is Ibobisi always so far away or so static, not making runs? Basically, just cherry picking goals. I don't know. The point is that we are conceding a lot of goals, and we're conceding them because we allow the teams to come into our high XG zones, the zones that we're supposed to be defending. We're letting the teams come into those zones, even though they are not. Even though our XG conceded or XG against is low compared to the goals that we have received, it puts a lot of thought into are we allowing a lot of long range shots? Yes, we have. We've been allowing goals from outside the 18-yard box. We've been allowing goals from pretty much anywhere. So what's going on? Or do we not have a good shot stopper? Do we not have anybody pressing the shots? Right? Just things to take a look at. Either way, I'm really happy to continue to support my team, the Quakes. This is a celebratory year. Hopefully we can turn it around, and wish all of you guys in the squad, if anybody does watch this video, the best. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know If there's any players that you'd like to see, I know we were sold Carlos Vela in the beginning of the season. Not sure what happened there, but that would have been nice. Anyways, I'm going to continue to support. You guys have a beautiful weekend. Let's go against LA Galaxy. Let's try to do our best in this Clásico and turn things around. Peace.